It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm not sure how I got the coveted right after lunch spot, but now that you have all stretched and screamed, hopefully you're nice and energized. So I've been asked to speak about the role of the ecosystem in creating category winners as it pertains to IoT. And Microsoft is a partner-led company. That's one of the quotes that our CEO, Satya Nadella, likes to say. And we are big believers that as markets evolve and as markets grow, it is about creating the ecosystem. So I'm going to speak to a couple of things today. I'm going to talk a little bit about Microsoft. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in IoT around the ecosystem. And as the general manager of Microsoft Ventures, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Microsoft Ventures program as well. So starting with Microsoft, this is our mission: empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And when you think about Microsoft, we touch nearly every enterprise on Earth. We have great reach in the consumer market. If there's silicon running in somebody's home or in their office for that matter, we like to think that there's hopefully a Windows operating system not too far away from that silicon. And so given the reach that we have, IoT really is a core focus for us. And from a strategic priority perspective, the things that Microsoft is focused on is reinventing productivity. You think of us for the Office suite. I don't know if I could live without my PowerPoint, although there's some days that I'd like to live without it. But how we think about productivity, how we think about making it possible for you to achieve more, your organizations to achieve more. Building an intelligent cloud platform. As you might know, we recently opened up 3 new data centers here in India. And then lastly, create more personal computing. And this is everything from Xbox and HoloLens to Windows and Cortana. And in my mind, one of the things that makes this particularly relevant is IoT cuts across all of these categories. Internally at Microsoft, we don't have a group devoted to IoT per se. We have folks in our cloud and enterprise business and in our applications group and in our Windows and devices group, all focused on IoT because it's going to require pieces from each of these categories, each of these product groups for us to be successful. IoT circa 2010. Who remembers all of the talk about connected refrigerators? Who bought one? Anybody? I see no hands. Okay, exactly. So 5 years ago, this was just a dream. And there was limited innovation in terms of applications that we could use to make us more productive, to connect our life. But over the last 5 years, we've really hit an inflection point. Hardware is cheap, connectivity is pervasive, there are development tools for IoT, tremendous benefits, innovative scenarios. I'm going to talk about a few in a minute. And to me, what this comes down to are things like Moore's Law, or Metcalfe's Law, or even Kumi's Law. These are all becoming a reality. And so our picture of IoT in 2015 looks like this. Very different. Innovative scenarios that is driven by large companies like Analog Devices, GE, who I understand was here this morning, Microsoft, as well as a range of startups that are bringing interesting solutions to the market. So what does this all mean? Our friends at Gartner talk about 25 billion connected things by 2020. More importantly, a $7.2 trillion market for IoT solutions. Now, it's not often that you see market sizes with a T rather than a B, and I think that's maybe in part why we are all here. This is a tremendous opportunity. So now how do we unlock it? At Microsoft, we think of IoT solutions coming from 2 sources. If you look at the top half of this chart, you see a set of our traditional partners, silicon vendors, ODMs, enterprise, ISVs. Many here today, many are focused on IoT, but we're seeing a tremendous amount of innovation from the folks in the bottom half of this funnel, whether it's sensor manufacturers, accelerators like the Microsoft Ventures Accelerator that we run here in Bangalore, startups, VCs, and so on. But it's a challenge, and I want to talk about particularly about the challenge of entrepreneurs as it pertains to IoT. As opposed to building a SaaS application. Bringing an IoT solution to market requires devices, connectivity, apps, cloud services. That right there is a bit of an ecosystem. Prototyping is complex. How many hardware manufacturers are here today? Okay, building that first prototype, designing for manufacturing, right? I don't need to tell you, very difficult to do. That is a competitive advantage. And so if you're in the endpoint market, in the sensor market, figuring out how to build at scale, at the right price points for whether it is industrial applications or consumer applications is a significant challenge. Executing go-to-market. I was in Delhi at our Think Next event yesterday. Was anybody there besides you, Ravi? Next year, we're going to work to make sure these are not on the same date. But one of the key topics that we talked about yesterday among startups was the challenge of go-to-market. And whether you're building devices or you're building an application, driving that go-to-market to drive growth, also a challenge for startups. And so for us, from a Microsoft perspective, we think about bringing together the elements of the ecosystem. This is our ecosystem map. This is how we think about driving awareness, driving development, and creating markets for IoT. And the way to read this slide is across the top, we go from communities to launch and grow. We start from the outer ring, the left and the bottom. And what's happening today through events like this, through work that you're doing with customers and partners, today it's really about driving awareness. What is the world of possibility? We talk about retail. We talk about connected transportation. It's about identifying use cases, building awareness, and starting to build the ecosystem. Moving to the next ring. Now we're talking about very specific implementations, whether it is in robotics or audio video or home automation, and how we work in particular verticals like transportation or smart buildings. We're starting to see certain applications evolve. The third ring is about promoting projects. And this is where we're starting to see everything from proof of concept tests to initial deployments. Smart energy is an application that we see quite a bit of. Agriculture, healthcare, these are markets that we are increasingly seeing interest in across our ecosystem. And then you get to the point where we're talking about businesses and going to market. And you see the ecosystem, the existing partners, the new partners, and the things that Microsoft brings, whether it is the IoT cloud or whether it is analytics and machine learning. And at the end of the day, this is about bringing solutions to market. And you know, when I was talking about coming here and giving a presentation today on IoT, one of the suggestions I had from one of my colleagues was to come here and talk about all of the products that we offer. What is our IoT suite, and what are we doing for in terms of protocol adapters or our event hub or machine learning? But at the end of the day, it's actually not about products. It's not about Microsoft products. It is about delivering business value. I'll go back to Microsoft's mission, empowering every organization, every person on the planet to achieve more. And that's why I think IoT, at least for Microsoft, and I assume for all of you, is quite exciting. I want to talk about an IoT case study. Has anybody here heard of the connected cows story? Okay. We have one, so I'm sorry to bore you, but I'll tell the rest of the folks. So one of our partners, Fujitsu, had been looking at agriculture applications and had some customers that were looking at how you could use IoT to help dairy farmers. And helping dairy farmers was about how you could increase calf production and reduce health issues in the herd. And what Fujitsu's basic research had discovered is that increased steps by cows were a sign of estrus, a sign of a cow going into fertility. And this period only lasts a couple of hours. So if you think about a large farm, the cows could be miles and miles from the barn. If a cow does not get impregnated during this period, they actually stop producing milk for a while. So you not only lose the ability, if you don't detect this, to increase the herd, but also it reduces production. Second, a change in the step pattern, Fujitsu learned, could also detect disease in cattle. And so the IoT application here was, I think of it as the Fitbit for cows, or the band for cows. And an industrial strength pedometer was created for cows. It was put on their ankles. Alerts were sent directly to a farmer's smartphone and tablet. They would be alerted when a cow was going into estrus. They would be alerted if there was a sign of potential disease. And so what were the benefits here? Calf production went up by 15 to 30%. Cattle loss was reduced significantly by detecting disease early. And this has transformed herd management. And now the punchline of the story is, who knows which country produces the most milk per head of cattle in the world? Now, India, I know, has the most cows, but the place where this has been applied is in Israel, a small desert country. And with this type of application, it has significantly increased production and reduced herd loss. I think it's a phenomenal story. I'm going to talk about Microsoft Ventures for one brief moment. Microsoft Ventures, we operate in 8 ecosystems around the globe. And we run a series of programs from our accelerators program. Who here knows my colleague Ravi? Hopefully everybody puts their hand in the air. Ravi, wave to everybody, please. Don't be shy. Ravi runs our program in India. And we run accelerators. We run customer access programs. We run a VC engagement program to help the best companies find investors to scale their business. And we've had about 400 companies go through our program over the last 3 years. The amount of capital raised by companies that have gone through our program passed $1 billion in venture funding about a month ago, something we're quite proud of. And this is how we approach the ecosystem. We want to find the best companies. We want to put them in touch with great partners. We want to help them grow. We obviously want to succeed as well. We've had some great IoT companies that have come through our program. I'm going to just talk about 2 of them. Both have come out of the program here in Bangalore, Flute Aura and iBot. Are they in the room today? Can I brag about them without their ego swelling? So Flute Aura is a industrial IoT company, and they're focused on the energy industry. And what they have done is built a platform that allows energy companies to take their traditional asset base, whether that be turbines or drilling, and sell them as a service. And so this is, in my mind, phenomenal business model innovation coming out in IoT. iBot. iBot has created a set of sensors that allow traditional manufacturers to turn their endpoints into edge nodes in an IoT network. Again, fantastic innovation, and I think we're going to see a lot coming out of the Indian marketplace, the startup marketplace, given the strength of the developer ecosystem here. Technical difficulty? There we go. So in conclusion, IoT is happening now. I think it's phenomenal that this is the first conference of this sort to be put on by TIE here in Bangalore. I think it's a sign of things to come. Microsoft and our partners, we have a great set of technology to help make IoT a reality. And what we're really looking for are partners and innovators that can transform businesses to being more digital so that we together can deliver your Internet of Things. So thank you very much for having me here today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. What happens next? Oh, can we take questions? Sure. Any questions? I guess I've answered all of them. Great. There's one down here in the front.
So question here is, are you planning any kind of Microsoft products, software products at the endpoints?
Are we planning Microsoft products at the endpoints? I think when you look at our existing product set, as Windows 10 evolves to things like Xbox, right? Something like Kinect essentially becomes an endpoint, right? But I also think that I was talking to one of our partners here today, Analog Devices, where we have a great partnership with them on the endpoint side. Our core competency is going to be more at the core and in the cloud, and that is where most of our IoT products exist, like our Event Hub or how you wrap machine learning and visualization around these things. So I see our value proposition is more at the core.
So if you really look at IoT, there's always this thing that it's tied in the core with cloud, right? So, but unless we talk about a federated, interoperable cloud, I don't think we'll be able to realize the vision of IoT. So what's your strategy on interoperability in the cloud space?
So the question is around interoperability in the cloud space, meaning how Azure would work with AWS and other clouds. Is that what the question is? So that's a great question, and I think as the world moves increasingly towards open source, right? And Microsoft, if you look at Microsoft Ventures as an example, about 70% of the companies that go through our program are using open source on Azure. I think that starts to open up the possibilities. I think as APIs become more standardized, that opens up the possibilities as well. I don't know that we see this truly in IoT today, but in a market that is maybe a one step more evolved, big data or advanced analytics, we're starting to see use cases where our machine learning tools are being used on top of all sorts of other clouds, whether private clouds or public clouds, regardless of where the underlying app or the underlying data sits. So I'd look at that as a harbinger of things to come, but I would agree with you, some level of interoperability is going to be necessary. Thank you very much.